Like, what do I get? Like 60,000 views a video? But here's Rachel Demita interviewing her also, and some of the positive things she had to say about being drafted to the Fever.
Raven, congratulations. This is a huge day getting drafted to the WNBA, to the Indiana Fever.
Take a closer look at that response for a moment. Caitlin Clark, what about her? She's an elite talent with a relentless winning mindset, and that statement coming from Raven Johnson makes it even more compelling. Selected at number 10 by the Indiana Fever, Raven's perspective carries real weight, especially if you remember the history between these two competitors. Just over a year ago, during the 2024 NCAA Championship game, Raven Johnson locked down Caitlin Clark, holding her to just 5 of 20 shooting possessions whenever she switched onto her, completely shutting down one of college basketball's most dangerous point guards. It was a defensive masterclass that had everyone talking, and now, in a surprising twist, they find themselves on the same team. The internet instantly erupted when Indiana announced Raven's name at pick 10, with reactions pouring in fast and harsh. Many questioned the fit, argued the team needed more size, and wondered why they didn't prioritize a backup center instead. Honestly, that was my initial reaction as well, but beneath all the chaos and criticism, there's a bigger picture that most people are completely overlooking right now.
So, I was always telling myself that I want to go to a program that has a chance of winning a championship, and I think that's a really good program, winning a championship. But not even that, they have phenomenal women, and I'm glad to be a part.
What stands out here is the deeper message behind those words. They're building a winning culture with exceptional women, and nothing about this approach feels accidental. Raven Johnson isn't just a product of South Carolina's 2024 national championship run. She's a player who faced rejection after being waived by the Seattle Storm in 2023, returned to college, and completely reinvented herself through relentless work and discipline. Her three-point percentage saw a major jump because she spent the entire offseason grinding in the gym, using that setback as pure motivation, and that's exactly the mentality Indiana is investing in. But now let's address the obvious concern everyone keeps bringing up. The Fever already signed Tia Harris as their backup point guard in free agency, while Caitlin Clark is firmly locked in as the starter, and on top of that, they were in serious need of frontcourt depth after Aaliyah Boston showed late-season injury concerns. Yet despite all of that, with the 10th overall pick, they chose another 5 feet 9 inches guard whose offensive game is still developing, which on the surface looks completely confusing and hard to justify. But it actually starts to make sense when you look at the bigger strategy Indiana's front office is quietly executing behind the scenes. This move isn't about immediate results in 2025, it's about setting up a much larger vision for 2026 and beyond, especially when you consider that Kelsey Mitchell is currently on a 1-year Supermax deal, Lexi Hull is also on a short-term contract, and several key rotation players are locked into similar 1-year situations, all because of a harsh and unavoidable financial reality shaping the roster decisions.
Which teammate at the Fever are you the most excited to play with?
Caitlin Clark.
What about Caitlin?
She's a phenomenal player. I mean, the things she does is bar standard. Like, she shoots the ball, could lead a team, and they win. Like, she has a winning mentality, and I think that's the biggest thing.
Because that's you.
Yep, exactly.
Is there a girl that you already know is going to take you under her wing?
Aaliyah Boston. Another game called Ty Harris. She's there, too. So.
What most people completely overlook in this situation is the financial storm quietly building behind the scenes. The new epic provision in the CBA has essentially crushed Indiana's salary cap flexibility, creating a scenario the front office can't ignore. This rule grants automatic max contracts to players who earn all WNBA honors, and both Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston reached that level last season. While Caitlin isn't eligible for the epic provision in 2025, she will be in 2026, which means a massive $1.19 million salary on top of Boston's existing max deal, putting the Fever in a serious cap crunch. The front office is already bracing for a potential roster crisis next year, unsure if they'll be able to keep key pieces together once those contracts escalate. That's exactly why they're stacking 1-year deals and thinking long-term rather than chasing short-term comfort. Drafting Raven Johnson on a rookie contract isn't random. It's a calculated insurance move designed to protect their future flexibility. If Kelsey Mitchell walks in free agency because Indiana simply can't afford her, they'll need a developing scorer ready to step into that role, and if other rotation players leave due to cap pressure, affordable young talent becomes essential. This is the real strategy unfolding beneath the surface, but it comes with serious risk because it relies on the team somehow competing at a high level right now despite clear roster gaps, while also trying to build a sustainable foundation for the future at the same time.
And also teaming back up with Aaliyah Boston.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is so crazy. Honestly, like she's the best to team up with. She's the best to look up to. I mean, she just has these pro habits of her. She has this this personality of her. It's great. Like, it's so bubbly, but she's also a great human being outside of basketball.
What do you want to share with the Indiana Fever fans? What can they expect from your game?
Yeah, defense tenacity. I like to get stops. I like to, steal the ball. I'm a gnat when it comes to stealing the ball, but not even that. I like to win. Like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to win. So I think that's what they should.
What really defines her game is pure defensive intensity and relentless effort. She lives for stops, thrives on steals, and plays with a level of tenacity that simply can't be taught. That's not just generic coach talk either. That's Raven Johnson's true identity on the court, and if that defensive edge translates to the WNBA the way Indiana expects, then this draft pick begins to make real basketball sense. Just think back to what fueled the Fever's playoff push last season. Lexi Hull's perimeter defense played a massive role in that success. Whenever Lexi shared the floor with Caitlin Clark, opposing guards struggled to find any rhythm, and that defensive presence allowed Caitlin to take more offensive risks knowing someone had her back on the other end. On top of that, Lexi's three-point shooting jumped to elite efficiency levels, hitting 38% from deep alongside Clark compared to just 29% without her, which perfectly highlights the undeniable Caitlin Clark effect. Her gravity as both a shooter and playmaker elevates everyone around her, turning average shooters into reliable options and good shooters into elite threats. Now, if Raven Johnson can replicate that same defensive energy while also spacing the floor and knocking down open shots created by Caitlin, this selection suddenly looks far more strategic and calculated. However, there's a key difference that can't be ignored. Lexi Hull, despite being, consistently plays bigger than her size, while Raven Johnson tends to play more true to her physical frame. The Fever were already one of the smallest teams in the league last season, yet they managed to make it work with players like Erica Wheeler and limited contributions from Katie Lou Samuelson, largely because Aaliyah Boston was anchoring the paint with heavy minutes. But that raises serious concerns moving forward. What happens if Boston needs more rest this season, and how will this roster handle elite size and physicality, especially when facing dominant teams like the Las Vegas Aces in a high-stakes playoff matchup again?
Raven Johnson is pretty versatile, and with so many people being on one-year contracts, they might be thinking of using Raven as a bit of a utility player. In 2024, when the South Carolina Gamecocks did go up against Iowa, when Raven was actually switched on to Caitlin, she held her to 5 of 20.
Asking for the screen. Goes away from it.
There were times when she had Caitlin Clark, the absolute best point guard in the NCAA at that time, in jail.
A rare one-shot trip for South Carolina. Can Iowa take advantage? Clark yet to score this quarter after 18 in the first. Here's Clark.
Go back and really study that 2024 NCAA championship matchup between South Carolina and Iowa, because what Raven Johnson did in that game wasn't just solid defense, it was complete domination on that end of the floor. When she switched onto Caitlin Clark, she didn't just contest shots, she completely disrupted everything, holding her to 5 for 20 shooting, denying her space, preventing clean looks, and shutting down the rhythm she usually controls with ease. Caitlin couldn't create separation, couldn't operate comfortably, and most importantly, Raven did all of it without fouling, without getting beat off the dribble, and without falling into any of the traps designed to force mistakes. That's elite point of attack defense at its highest level, and that kind of skill absolutely translates if the player has the IQ to adjust. And Raven Johnson has exactly that, with a championship-level understanding of the game. She ran the floor for a South Carolina team that dominated all season, making smart reads, perfect rotations, and composed decisions in the biggest moments. Now picture that kind of defensive weapon coming off the bench for Indiana, giving Caitlin Clark valuable rest while still maintaining control, running the second unit, and locking down opposing guards. Picture late-game defensive possessions where Indiana needs one crucial stop, and they can throw Raven onto elite scorers like Kelsey Plum, Sabrina Ionescu, or Chelsea Gray. That's real value, and it justifies a 10th pick if it pays off. But here's the undeniable concern that can't be ignored. Raven Johnson averaged just 3.7 points per game in her senior season, with an extremely limited
from your game.
Yeah, defense tenacity. I like to get stops. I like to, steal the ball. I'm a gnat when it comes to stealing the ball, but not even that. I like to win. I'm gonna do whatever it takes to win. So I think that's what they should expect.
At the core of all this is a mindset that simply can't be faked. Doing whatever it takes to win isn't just something you say, it's something you prove, and Raven Johnson has already proven it the hard way. You don't get waived from the WNBA, go back to college, win a national championship, and completely transform your shooting ability without an almost obsessive level of discipline and work ethic. She's not someone who's going to get outworked or caught unprepared, and when you place that mentality into a locker room led by competitors like Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston, it naturally aligns with a championship standard. But shifting to the other major development from draft day, the financial side of the league is starting to look just as intense as the on-court battles. Tammy Fagbennel landing a $1 million deal with the Toronto Tempo raised a lot of eyebrows, especially for a role player who averaged modest numbers last season with Indiana. And while some might argue she brought value to the system, reports, including insights from Scott Agnes, pointed to internal communication issues, not major drama, but enough friction in her direct and blunt approach to affect dynamics within the team. That helps explain why Indiana didn't protect her in the expansion draft and ultimately let her walk. But when you also see players like Jessica Shepard securing similar million-dollar deals, it highlights a much bigger shift happening across the league. These are solid, experienced contributors, not superstars or franchise anchors, yet they're commanding massive salaries, sometimes even more than elite guards like Kelsey Plum. This is the new reality of the
WNBA draft. It does seem that Raven Johnson is the talk of the town after the Indiana Fever drafted her number 10. My immediate reaction was that this was not the best fit for the Indiana Fever, but today I am turning the page, I am diving in, and I want to analyze Raven Johnson a little bit more for the Indiana Fever. Oh, side note, Tammy Fagbennel just signed a $1 million contract with the Toronto Tempo, and I'll briefly touch on that.
What truly makes the Raven Johnson selection both brilliant and deeply unsettling for Indiana is the razor-thin line they're trying to walk between present success and future security. It's a smart move because they're securing an elite, championship-proven defender on a cost-controlled rookie deal at a time when their cap situation won't allow for expensive veteran depth. And it also leans heavily on Caitlin Clark's proven ability to elevate everyone around her, a pattern we've already seen play out with multiple teammates. If Raven can even develop into a league-average offensive contributor, she instantly becomes either a valuable long-term rotation piece or a strong trade asset, which adds another layer of strategic upside. But the risk is just as real and impossible to ignore. This is a team that was only one overtime game away from reaching the WNBA Finals last season, and instead of filling immediate gaps, they used a first-round pick on a player who may not deliver meaningful minutes right away. There are still serious concerns around Aaliyah Boston's ankle and overall frontcourt depth, and yet the roster remains largely unchanged in a league where top contenders like the Aces and Liberty have only gotten stronger while others continue to retool aggressively. Indiana is essentially betting that their current core can compete for a title right now while also laying the groundwork for the future, and that kind of dual-track approach is notoriously difficult to execute. Most teams that attempt it end up falling short on both ends, and that's where the pressure intensifies, especially for head coach Stephanie White, who now has to manage a complex mix of expectations. She's relying on Caitlin Clark to take another leap in her second year, counting on Aaliyah Boston to return fully healthy and dominate on both ends, and navigating Kelsey Mitchell's contract year urgency as she looks to prove her long-term value. At the same time, she must carefully integrate and develop Raven Johnson into a reliable contributor without disrupting the team's competitive rhythm. It's a delicate balancing act involving rotations, roles, egos, and expectations, and if it doesn't come together, if Indiana regresses because immediate needs were overlooked, the backlash won't just be criticism, it will be overwhelming and impossible for the organization to ignore. If everything plays out exactly how Indiana is envisioning behind the scenes, this decision won't just look good, it will look like a franchise-defining masterstroke. If Raven Johnson grows into the elite lockdown defender they believe she can be, and even develops into a respectable offensive option alongside Caitlin Clark, then suddenly this pick becomes the perfect balance between winning now and securing the future. The entire strategy is rooted in belief in Clark's ability to completely transform the players around her, belief that Raven's defensive instincts are special enough to make an immediate impact, and belief that relentless work ethic can elevate her offensive game over time. And to be fair, there's already strong evidence supporting this approach. We've seen Clark elevate teammates like Lexi Hull into a reliable 3-and-D weapon, while also helping Aaliyah Boston become